Suicide often appears as the best and only option for a man when he allows the disease of ignorance to not only eat up his intestine, but his whole being. Let's think deeply.
Hello, I am Faith Adeniji, known as the Chosen Lady, a talented voice and spoken word artist and a writer. Welcome to my podcast, Thinking Deep with the Chosen Lady. On this podcast, I bring to you God's words. They are motivational and yes, spiritual. Why not? Your relationship with God is spiritual, isn't it? This podcast subjects you to thinking deeply to the end that your choice of action after thinking would be the best. It is time to think deeply, not to overthink.
Hello everyone, hello amazing people. I trust I have met you well and I hope that you're crushing your 2025 goals. It's the third month already. How times really fly. However, do not be discouraged. It is not time to actually give up. Okay, so you can still achieve your goals. You can still achieve a lot in the remaining months left in this year, and you would certainly be proud of yourself eventually. You just don't give up and do not allow anything such as comparison or any other thing to discourage you or limit you. Okay, so understand that as human beings, we are different people. I want you to understand that we are different people and we are running different races. So in this world, we are what's running different races, and if you do not focus on yours but want to use that of others as a measuring tape, then you may end up not getting to the half of your race and not even mention finishing the race. You have to understand that, okay? So a popular quote by Mahatma Gandhi says, "There is a no for everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed." I'm going to say that again. There is a no for everyone's needs, but not a no for everyone's greed. Essentially, what this quote means is that the earth has enough resources to meet everyone's basic needs. But if people are excessively greedy, and try to acquire more than they require, this would lead to resources depletion and inequality. So, my dear listener, you really do not have to be greedy of other possessions as you could have yours. Their success should not intimidate you but rather motivate you to do better. So you might be wondering, okay, what's the how does this quote relate to what I'm saying? It does, because most of us, when we are greedy of some things that we shouldn't focus on, that's where we tend to lose focus on what matters to us and we start focusing on things that do not actually matter to us. So in this earth, while others shine, you can also shine. You can shine. Yes, you can. You can shine. Or I believe this, and give yourself some peace. Okay, God has given you peace. Just allow yourself to enjoy this peace. Focus on yourself, and you would realize that any goal is crushable. That's just a thing. Okay, so I did not plan to say this. Actually, I guess someone needs it, and so it is not too late to get better. Okay, I hope you got that. So I'm glad you are making the decision. Very good. So you must be wondering, what do we have for this month? What do we want to think about for this month? All right, so do not think too much. I'm going to do the thinking for you. I'm going to help you, okay? So for this month, we are thinking deeply on what is called why suicide. A question, why suicide? Sometime around last year, I participated in a spoken word competition, and basically we were told to have a performance on either suicide, anxiety, or depression. And recently again, it came to me to have this spoken word, the same performance. I should have a video of it and put out to people and all of that, and share with people just basically. Then while I was waiting on God, I was thinking of how I would actually do that. I had not concluded on the day I would do that. So while I was also waiting on God for a topic for this month, that is to think about for this month, it also dropped in my heart that I should use the same topic, okay, for this month. So let's think deeply on why suicide. So this month, as God would help us, that is what we're going to be thinking deeply on. I also dropped the spoken word piece before the end of this month on my YouTube channel. I will do that. But I was hoping it to come with the episode, but this episode was rushed, sort of. So It will be coming after before the end of this month. I would try to ensure that. So I hope you have not actually forgotten why we think deeply, because to some extent you may be wondering why suicide. How does it align with the vision of this podcast? Trust me, for every topic of discussion here, there is an alignment. The vision is there, and whatever is discussed here, it's in alignment one way or the other with the vision. So why suicide? How does it align with the whole vision of this podcast and all of that? So I'll tell you that what this has to do, the purpose of this, I'm going to tell you. So trust me, it is your relationship with God, your relationship with you yourself, and your relationship with others, basically. So before we start properly, let's make our opening confessions as usual. Okay, so can we boldly confess? I am receptive to God's revelations. I'm helped to think deeply and not to overthink. My choice of action afterward will be the best and not the one that would lead me astray. I have the perfect relationship with God. I have the perfect relationship with myself. I walk in God's wisdom, and so I live a life of excellence. Amen. If you have boldly confessed that, be rest assured that that's how it's going to be for you, because your confessions make up your reality. You know that by now. And if you do not doubt, nothing will make you less of the confessions that you have made in God. Yes, because that is going to propel you to even know the right thing to do, faith and work. Yes, so it's not just enough you make confessions, but constant confessions actually bring our consciousness to those things that we should constantly do. If you do that every day, trust me, that's just a thing. So, so if suicide is an option, do you think there's going to be a room for one to live out one's best life? That's a question, I want us to even think on that question first of all, okay? If suicide is an option, all right, for everybody in this life, do you think there is going to be a room for everyone to live out one's best life? The thought of it will certainly have an effect on how you see yourself. Such thought could only result from you not having the best inner relationship with yourself. If you do, certainly you won't permit such thought, no matter how hard it comes to you. Again, allowing such thought to persist is actually limiting God. And no doubt, it is going to cause a stain in one's relationship with God. There's no how. Because if you keep permitting that, there's going to be a day you're going to eventually commit the suicide. And it's going to affect your relationship with God. You may be wondering how we're going to get there. Okay, so allowing such again would surely have an effect in your relationships, the relationships shared with others. Okay, so this is going to be due to how one tends to react around others. One tends to what? There's no how. Often one would always put up negative attitude that will put others off. Because imagine you know what you're going through, the thoughts in your head, that those things that are coming to you that you're not letting out to anyone, that no one actually understands. So if anyone tries to play with you or try to do anything, where your mind would be, to be on that thing that you're thinking about, and then you tend to react slowly, you tend to react sharply to some things, get angry, or be so quiet. This would actually be putting people off, because they'd be like, I don't understand why that person is like that. Let me just let him be this and this and that. So it's going to affect your relationship with others. So that's just that. So why suicide? Let's actually address this. While the answer to this is broad, I would say that they will all still sum up to something, just one thing. And do you know what that is? It is ignorance. This is because regardless of what may warrant one's decision to settle for suicide, if one understands some things better, one would certainly not choose to settle for suicide. Hence, the seemingly best solution some people choose for the problems they encounter is suicide. When ignorance takes place, when ignorance rules, the seemingly best solution that comes to some people to deal with some unpleasant situations in life, some unpleasant circumstances, some unpleasant challenges would be suicide. Because they'll be like, okay, let's just end this whole thing. When I'm no more living, then I'm going to be fine. But is that really the solution? Research has actually shown that the choice of suicide is influenced by a combination of psychological, social, and environmental factors. And understanding these factors would certainly provide effective strategies in preventing and dealing with suicide. That's why I said ignorance is a disease, and ignorance can be a major factor, because when there's no understanding of some things, there's no understanding of what one should do. So that's just the answer. That's why ignorance is the major root of suicide. So to better understand what I am saying, let's understand the statistics of these factors, just a few of these factors that I've said. So according to Wikipedia, approximately 50% of suicide cases and approximately 50% of suicide cases involve individuals diagnosed with major depressive disorder, increasing the risk to increasing the risk of suicide to 20-fold. Yes, so nearly half of those who die by suicide may have a personality disorder. That's another thing. And with a borderline personality disorder being particularly prevalent. Okay, I hope you're following. So individuals with eating disorders still are at a higher risk of suicide. Are you paying attention at all? Eating disorder. So some environmental and social factors which may contribute to suicide as well may include childhood trauma like experiences of abuse, neglect or other traumatic events during childhood, bullying. Some students, they don't have the strength for fight and all of that, but they experience bullying in school by other children or even those that are younger than them. So victims of bullying are between 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide than non-victims. Okay, so they tend to think that, okay, the best solution to this bullying, to all of this, would be, let me just end my life. This could be another social environmental factor would be social isolation. Loneliness is not good. Loneliness is not good. So I tell some people, you see, no man is an island. You cannot live in this world alone. You cannot do this life alone. And that's why we have to learn to tolerate people. So if you're saying you don't want to tolerate some people, actually, there are some situations that you just have to let some people be, or some situations you have to learn to tolerate people. The thing is, you cannot live this life alone. You need people. So another factor is social isolation. So feelings of loneliness and lack of social support can elevate the risk of suicide. Trust me. The feeling of loneliness is not good, so it's not something that you should embrace. All right, it is not something that you should embrace. Another factor that I would say is unemployment and financial stress. Holy Spirit, I understand this. Okay, as I said, but then I have an understanding of how stressful this can be. Okay, so economic hardships, including job loss, financial instability, they all have been associated with increased suicide rates. They can actually lead to one choosing to commit suicide. They can actually lead to. Another thing, substance abuse like alcohol or drug abuse or drug misuse can actually exacerbate mental health conditions and impair judgment, leading to increased vulnerability to suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Yeah. So also individuals suffering from chronic pain or debilitating physical illness may experience feelings of hopelessness. Trust me, contributing to an elevated risk of suicide, chronic pain. Chronic pain, trust me. You see, if you have not been there, you can't really tell of some things. So chronic pains, I understand how that can be. Okay, because sometimes even for ladies can relate so well with this now when we are in our, when our visitor comes for the month. Sometimes some ladies, they have different ways. I never even gave a testimony in my fellowship. She was like, please help me to thank the Lord because December came, November, December, February, January or something came. I had my period. I no feel pains. Like, testimony, are you serious? But for real, until you listen to that before you actually understand why she actually makes such testimony. She was basically doing that because she could feel peace. She could feel peace because she said that before, during our period or all of that is usually it was usually very serious, that she would have to take drugs before she could be better, before she could feel better. So it was enough. It was enough of a testimony. So actually, I can understand how chronic pains can be, but that should not be the end of one's life. That should not be the reason why one should choose to end one's life. That should not really be. So do you not see why ignorance can be the major factor in a disease? So the knowledge of these factors can actually help provide effective preventive measures like mental health support, that is providing accessible mental health care and support services. Number two, restricting access to means, that is limiting access to common means of suicide, such as firearms and certain medications. Yes, I think that's very common. We have community engagement. I said isolation is not good, loneliness is not good. So fostering strong social connections and community support networks would actually really work. And so public awareness, raising awareness about the signs of suicide and promoting help-seeking behaviors would actually all go a long way. So understanding the reasons for suicide should help develop targeted interventions and support systems that would reduce its consequences, like its occurrences and all of that. So all that being said, let's understand the biblical perspective of suicide. You don't think it is biblical, do you? Okay. Maybe you think it is right because the Bible tells us not to commit suicide and not categorically not to commit murder rather, and not categorically suicide. Yeah, right, yeah. So does that actually make it right in the sight of God? Oh no. It actually causes a stain in one's relationship with God. You may be wondering how. Of course, you are taking a life that you cannot create. Either it is your life or not, you may say that it is my life after all. The fact remains that you haven't created this life. You cannot create this life again. So the fact remains that you have not created this life yourself. And so you do not have any right whatsoever to end that life. If you can, you have nothing really differentiating you from others who take the lives of others that we call murder. Because basically, you all are taking lives that you have not created and neither can you create. I think to some extent, there is an understanding of why people often choose to commit suicide. Yes, the reasons the reason for that is, so the reasons that we have discussed tell of why people commit suicide. Okay, and that is why this episode is necessary. Why not suicide? Why not suicide? Why suicide when things can be done differently? Why suicide when there is an option to live? Has it not been said that where there is life, there is hope? Why suicide then? Why suicide when you can simply view life differently from the obstacles it presents to us? Why suicide when a better choice can be made? The Yorubas would say, "Eni ku ni ti egbe," meaning that it is he who dies who perishes or who ends and all of that an end has come to. This is to say that no matter how much anyone loves you, if you choose to die, that won't certainly stop them from living. And of course, yes, that would not make them to choose to die. So what's lost? Exactly. What's lost? Exactly. Like I said in a perfumed spoken word, once that won't stop anyone from living. A few days of money and everyone is back to bliss. The dead is gone and those alive would live. And sooner or later, do you know the thing? Sooner or later, a replacement would be found for the unimaginable replaceable word. That's the most painful part of it all, I'm telling you. So who's lost now? It is the loss of the one who actually had the power to remain alive and also commit suicide, but ignorantly went for suicide. Trust me. I give a few examples of famous people who wanted to choose suicide, but later did not. Believe me, suicide is a spirit. Yes, I could tell from the experiences of these ones, but really it isn't a spirit that cannot be dealt with. If that be the case, those who survived it and living extraordinary and glorious lives now would never get to do. You know, my school dad has once thought of suicide over failure. He said he was actually on the topmost floor of his faculty and the spirit kept telling him to jump down. He said all of a sudden the far ground appeared so close to him, so close that if he had jumped, nothing would have happened. It would just have been like he was just walking normally and all of that. The spirits apparently obviously deceived him, and he almost yielded, but thank God for God, who made him realize that he could be better, but not by committing suicide. So, don't you think you can be better? Maybe the thought has not come. Maybe the thought has come. But trust me, don't give in to the spirit. You can be better. You don't choose to be better by committing suicide. Whenever the thought comes to you, whenever the spirit comes, Don't give in to that. Don't let it grow. Challenge it, because it is not by choosing to accept that spirit, allow the spirit to rule, that you would get better. You only get better by prevailing over that spirit, and your input matters. Do not be ignorant. Do not be ignorant. So you see, this my school dad, I'm always proud of him. I mean, he's so young, but his achievements are simply greater than his age. His selfless, the selfless life he lives, the impact he makes on both young and old people. I call him a living legend, basically. I'm a living legend. This is just who he is. Trust me, if he had committed suicide some years back when he wanted to do, when that spirit came upon him, he would not have gotten to attain that title from me, or would have gotten to achieve all that he has achieved today, or being the amazing people that he is to people now. This man is a man of impact, but he would never have gotten to this stage if he had committed suicide. You see, far above numbers are renowned great men today who fought the thought and spirit of suicide so they could be where they are now. Don't you believe you can fight too? Do you know John Wall? I think sports lovers should know him, or they should be conversant with that name. So he's a former NBA All-Star, and at a point in his life, he thought it was best to end his life. He openly spoke about his struggles with mental health, including experiencing suicidal thoughts. So in a 2022 interview and personal essay, he revealed that during a challenging period marked by his injury, the death of his mother and grandmother, and career uncertainties, he faced depression and considered suicide. But he did commit suicide. More credited therapy, support from loved ones, pay attention, therapy, support for loved ones, and his faith for helping him through the dark period. He emphasized the importance of seeking help and speaking openly about mental health struggles, encouraging others to do the same. Can you see now? He certainly had enough reasons to commit suicide, but he did not choose to be ignorant of how to get rid of that thought and put the spirit to shame. That's basically the difference between him and those who eventually committed suicide. What about Dwayne The Rock Johnson, one of Hollywood's highest paid actors and a pillar of physical perfection today? Is it actually a pillar of physical attraction today? So he spoke openly about his struggles with depression, which could have led to the thought of suicide, but he did not permit that. If he had, of what pillar of physical perfection or attraction do you think he's going to be today? He even mentioned that when he was 15, Atta Johnson, his mother, attempted suicide. She worked into oncoming traffic on a highway, but Johnson could pull her back to safety. Since then, he has been using his platform to raise awareness about mental health, encouraging people, especially men, to talk about their struggles and seek help where necessary. It is quite strange to hear him say especially men, right? Why men? You know, research has it that more men commit suicide than ladies because they don't open up. Don't stop trying to man up unnecessarily. Open up. Open up. Permit me to bring one more example. Do you know Erica Campbell of Mary Mary? She's a gospel girl, Mary Mary, and she revealed in 2018 that at age 12, she contemplated suicide. She shared that a voice urged her to slice her wrist in the kitchen, but she did not do that, attributing to the prayers in her household and her faith. This experience highlighted her belief in the importance of faith and community support during challenging times. While there are other personalities we can look into, let us stop with Erica, but I am sure we have gotten many things to hold on to from the experiences of these ones. Suicide is a spirit, and uninvitedly it might come to one, but one must not be ignorant of the things that can lead to that, and also response one should give to it. From the experiences I have shared, you would see that how they responded to it was what made the difference in attempting and actually committing. So why suicide? Ignorance. Why suicide? Ignorance. But why not suicide? A pleasing life to God, a purposeful life, an inspiring life, a fulfilling life, and more. Silence isn't the best way to deal with the spirit of suicide. It can only create more room for it. And so, by speaking out, put the spirit and the owner of the spirit, who happens to be the devil, to shame. Yes, this is possible. Possible to say no to suicide. Say no to suicide. Right, there are a lot of things to say. I wouldn't even want to bore us with so much because the whole idea is that say no to suicide by speaking help, opening help, trusting people, seeking therapy, and all of that, seeking help when necessary. Choosing to end your life is not the best option for life. Do not be ignorant. If you choose to life, if you choose to live rather, there is more you can achieve. There is more you can get. There is more you can gain. So glory to God. We're going to stop in here. And I trust that you have been blessed. So now let's make our closing confessions. By the grace of God, I am not a slave to the thought of suicide. I break free from any spirit of suicide. My mind is alert to my realities in God. I do not see myself less of who God sees me or who God has made me. I am made for wonders, and the life of wonders I shall live. Glory! So we thank God for what He has brought us to think deeply on this month. Why suicide? So glory to His name. Amen. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me or on any of my social media pages, or send them to my mail at thechosenlady2@gmail.com. Be rest assured that I'm going to address them as God will permit me. So bye now. Say no to suicide. Don't even allow the thought to be real.